Atomic Owl is a 2D precision platformer with a killer soundtrack and a striking cyberpunk vibe. Here you play as Hidalgo, a member of the Blightwings, a group of warriors sworn to protect society from the Crows, their sworn enemy. But when the Crows and Tengu manage to take control of his very allies, he is left alone, confused and forced to fight his way through his friends to bring them back to their senses, or to set them free from their suffering. One of my biggest problems, perhaps more accurate to call it a past issue, was how the game launched, in such a poor state regarding its core mechanic, platforming. For a precision platformer, you could not run and jump properly. Momentum was held back, and movement felt very rustic. Platforming, the one thing the game was supposed to deliver on, was a pain in the ass to deal with. Regardless of that, I pushed through each stage on my first run with these issues, mostly carried by the soundtrack and the visual design. The developers did reach out almost immediately after review and fix this issue. As I slowly made progress throughout the game, I reached the second boss, Kaze, and died due to low health, but I brushed it off. That's when Hidalgo wakes up in what's basically bird heaven, where you can upgrade his abilities and gain extra damage or utility. At first, it felt like a neat mechanic. I didn't think too much about it until I tried to leave. After speaking with the Phoenix, I was revived and thrown all the way back to the beginning of the game. I had no idea this game featured this type of a mechanic. 1 full hour of progress was now gone. There were no checkpoints, no saves, just another grind back to the same stages, with the same projectiles and a few new power-ups like double jump, triple jump, dash, and double dash, slowly unlocked after each death. I absolutely hated this. The game only takes about 2 hours to finish, which is perfectly fine, but forcing players to redo entire chunks of the game because of some abstract death rebirth mechanic that might have meaning tied to the new swords or narrative fragments that show up after each death just feels like artificial padding. It's really not meaningful challenge. It could do with simply allowing the player to play a platformer, not a slow boss rush. On one hand, the game features partial voice acting, a strong visual identity, and then a unique style that clearly had a lot of care put into it. But when it comes to the core gameplay, it's being held back, because it feels mediocre. You can switch weapons and grow stronger based on your kill count after each failed run, but I never felt the need to use anything beyond the whip and the ricocheting weapon that clears everything nearby. What this game really needed was some polish, and to be fair, the developers do seem committed to improving it. The platforming has improved since launch, but the overall gameplay still feels lacking. The absence of checkpoints is especially punishing if you die. It makes every death feel like wasted time. Even just adding those would make the experience far less frustrating and worth sitting through for a game that only runs for a couple of hours. At $20, you're paying for some sharp visuals and a well-composed soundtrack featuring breakcore, but the gameplay just doesn't hold up its end. You move through stages quickly, mostly dying to awkward, sometimes arbitrary platforming, and the boss fights are forgettable at best. You can even die during cutscenes without a chance to react, only to be thrown back to the very beginning of the game. For a game with, again, only 2 hours of content, it's hard to justify the price or the time investment, even with the promise of future updates. Even if you are here for the aesthetics and the music, it's still much more reasonable to pick it up at around $10. At its current state and its price, Atomic Owl feels like a stylish concept that needs a few extra nudges in the right direction.